Okay, so we're going to look at the cardiac cycle, starting with systole and diastole. So what you can see here is we got a couple of things going on here. Up here, showing the flow of the heart of the blood with those arrows. The arrows here, which you'll see in just a moment, again, are showing the contractions. Now over here are the pressure at different times in different parts. So the green is the aortic artery. So that's blood leaving for the rest of the body. The red is the ventricle, and then um, the yellow is the atria. So the different atrials, and then uh, white is the ventricle volume. So how much blood is in there. And then down here, we have the electrocardiogram. So this is showing the electrical signals in the heart and and how that's helping with the blood pumping at different stages. And it's those contractions that are causing the heart to contract and so forth. And then down here is the heart sounds that you would normally hear, like when you listen on your stethoscope or something like that. Okay, so that's all of that. And then what you're going to need to be able to do on a test, is a classic 8-point question, is break down what's happening in these different parts, and also talking about the pressure and the volume in those different spots throughout the cycle. So I'm going to pause it here. Pause it right there. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back to the start here. Okay, so here we're in atrial systole. So here, notice the atria are just starting to contract, and blood is flowing in to the ventricles at this point, and the atria are contracting, right? So you can see A here causing that to go up as the pressure is pushing the blood into there, into the ventricles. So as we continue to go, we get to the end of atrial systole, and we're in isovolumetric contraction. So it's contracted, and what's starting to happen here is the ventricles are beginning to contract a bit. Now notice the valves here leading out of the body, so the semilunar valves are closed. The atrioventricular valves are still open, but you can see they've kind of, throughout this whole process, they're starting to shut. Okay, so we get into isometric contraction. Notice here, the pressure builds immensely, right? So the ventricle, the pressure increases quite a bit over that time. And the volume is at its highest point. Okay, so what's starting to happen here is both the ventricles are closed and the ventricles are contracting. So what's happening is the pressure inside the blood is getting quite high. Or sorry, the pressure inside the ventricles is quite high. So as we move into rapid ejection, notice throughout this whole process, the pressure kept building and building. And notice here at the beginning, as we get into rapid ejection, at the end of systole, the semilunar valves are opening. Okay, so under immense pressure, and notice that pressure keeps climbing as the ventricles fully contract. Now notice in the aortic artery, so the aorta here, the pressure is climbing also, right? So all that blood is being forced into that aorta. Remember, the aortas have very thin space. It's arteries, so the pressure in there is getting really high also, as it's kind of all that blood is going in. Okay, and then the end, we kind of move into reduced injection. So you notice here the pressure starts to decrease, right? The full contractions of the heart. And also notice on the white, it's emptied. The ventricles have emptied of blood. Okay, and then the pressure in the aorta starts to go down, and the pressure in the ventricles definitely goes down because the if you go back there, the valves are open, so all the blood's being forced out, so the pressure has gone down. And notice towards the end of the reduced ejection, all the valves are closed again. So then when we get into diastole, the blood starts coming into the atria. Blood's still leaving the aorta, so the pressure keeps going down on that. But again, there's still some pressure there as kind of the last contractions. And then here, the atria have filled up. You can see that. The atrioventricular valves start to open, and then you get ventricular filling, rapid in there. So all the blood you can see is coming inside. There's no contractions or anything here. So diastole is also kind of synonymous with no contractions there of the heart outside of, well, no, there's no contraction here. So then you can see as we move through this, blood is entering the ventricles and the pressure is going up. Notice the pressure in the aorta has kind of gone down. You had this little snap back here, and that's the flexibility of the atria kind of pushing that blood along, and then it decreases as that blood leaves the aorta to the rest of the body. Right, so we very quickly go back, we start to see the blood filling up, pressure starts to increase a little bit in the atria, and then we get to the end, and we basically started it back over, and the atria start to contract. Okay, so what your kind of final piece of work here is going to be is to take this, equate it with the electrocardiogram and the heart sounds. So what are the S1 and the S2 heart sounds? What do they correspond to? What's happening in the heart? Okay, all right.